All right, let's talk about that feeling, that looming deadline, the blinking cursor, and the sudden urge to do anything else. Today, we're not just talking about academic procrastination. We're going to give you 5 evidence-based fixes to finally beat it. You know the drill, right? You sit down, you've got your coffee, you're ready to write that paper. And the next thing you know, you're an hour deep into a documentary about deep-sea creatures. If that sounds even remotely familiar, trust me, you're in exactly the right place. Okay, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. You are not lazy. This isn't a character flaw. The research is actually super clear on this. Procrastination isn't a time management problem, it's an emotional regulation problem. It's your brain's escape hatch to avoid feeling bad. So here's our game plan. First, we'll piece together the procrastination puzzle. Then, we'll get into the real reason we do it. After that, it's all about solutions. Fixes for your tasks and your time, your process and your place, and a big one, the motivation fix. And we'll wrap up with the single most important thing, your first step forward. Okay, so let's dive right in. To solve this thing, we've got to understand what we're actually up against. Because, it's more than just putting things off. It's a very specific and weirdly predictable pattern of behavior. So what is it officially? Well, academic procrastination is when you deliberately put off your work, like writing that chapter or studying for that exam, even though you know it's going to come back to bite you. It's that crazy gap between what you intend to do and what you actually do. And hey, if you feel like you're the only one wrestling with this, you are so not alone. Study after study shows that over 70%, 70, of university students are right there with you, procrastinating on a regular basis. This is a nearly universal part of academic life, which is good news. It means it's a solvable problem, not some personal failing. So, what is actually going on in our heads when we choose to reorganize our bookshelf instead of writing our thesis? Well, the answer is pretty fascinating. It's all about how our brain is wired to handle discomfort. And really, it all boils down to this one simple truth. We procrastinate to feel better in the short term. When we're faced with a task that makes us feel anxious or overwhelmed, our brain just screams, "Abort mission, find something that feels good right now." You can literally picture it as a battle inside your brain. On one side, you've got your limbic system. That's your emotional, impulsive brain that just wants to avoid pain and feel good now. On the other side is your prefrontal cortex, the responsible planner thinking about your future goals. When you procrastinate, yep, the limbic system just won that round. So what are these bad feelings we're trying to escape? Well, they're usually one of these 4 culprits. There's the anxiety of perfectionism, staring at a blank page, terrified of writing a less than perfect sentence. There's the sheer paralysis of overwhelm, when a project just feels too big. There's the frustration of not even knowing where to start. And of course, there's good old-fashioned fear of criticism, fear of failure. Figuring out which one is your trigger is half the battle. All right, enough about the problem. Let's start building our toolkit to fight back. Now that we get the why, we can start using some seriously effective strategies, beginning with how we approach the task itself and the time we have. I absolutely love this quote. It's a marathon runner's trick, but it's perfect for writers. When you're facing a mountain of a project, like a whole thesis, staring at the top is just going to paralyze you. The only way forward is to stop looking up and start looking at your feet, at the very next step right in front of you. And here's what that looks like in practice. Write a literature review is a terrifying, vague monster. But find 3 papers on my topic? Hey, I can do that. That's a micro task. And once you do that, the next step is write 150 words summarizing one of them. These tiny wins build momentum, and they trick your brain out of its fear response. So fix number 2 is all about time. You've probably heard of the Pomodoro technique, and it's famous for a reason. Promising your brain you'll only work for 25 minutes is so much less scary than committing to a whole afternoon. It just demolishes that initial barrier to getting started, which, let's be honest, is usually the hardest part. But for the kind of deep thinking academic writing requires, sometimes 25 minutes isn't quite enough to get into that flow state. So feel free to experiment. Try longer sprints, maybe 45 minutes, maybe an hour, maybe even a solid 90-minute block. Find the rhythm that lets your brain really sink into the work. Okay, now let's talk about the how and the where. These next 2 fixes are about setting yourself up for success, engineering your environment so that writing becomes the easiest option, not the hardest. This right here might be the most powerful weapon you have against perfectionism. You have to give yourself permission, explicit permission, to write a terrible, messy, ugly first draft. Its only job is to exist, get the words on the page, because as the saying goes, you can't edit a blank page. The trick is to realize you have two different jobs, writer and editor. You can't be the creative, messy writer at the same time you're being the critical, precise editor. Trying to do both at once is just a guaranteed recipe for writer's block. So put on your writing hat and just make a mess. You can put on your editing hat tomorrow. Look, your brain loves cues, so give it some. Have a dedicated writing spot, even if it's just a specific chair. Use an app to block Twitter. Create a little ritual, like making a specific kind of tea that tells your brain, okay, it's time to focus. And don't forget accountability. Find a writing buddy, join a group. Just knowing someone else is expecting you to show up is a crazy powerful motivator. And that brings us to our final fix. This one is all about motivation, and it's straight out of behavioral science. This is how you literally train your brain to start associating writing with something positive. The scientific term for this is positive reinforcement, but really, it's a super simple idea. You do the hard thing, you finish your writing session, and you immediately follow it up with a reward. By doing that over and over, you're strengthening the pathways in your brain that make you actually want to write again. And the reward doesn't have to be anything huge. A short walk outside, your favorite snack, one episode of that show you're binging, guilt-free. Also, don't forget to reflect. Just keeping a simple log of your word count or the time you spent writing gives you visual proof that you're making progress. And seeing that progress is a reward in itself. Phew, we have covered a lot of ground, from the inner workings of your brain to simple daily habits. So let's pull this all together and focus on the one thing that matters most: what you're going to do today. So here it is, your complete anti-procrastination toolkit. You now know how to break down tasks, use time blocks, embrace the ugly first draft, set up your environment for success, and reward yourself for the work you do. But listen, here is the final, most important piece of advice. Do not try to do all of these things at once. That would be completely overwhelming, which is the exact feeling we're trying to fight. So instead, just look at this list and ask yourself one simple question. Which one of these strategies feels the easiest, the most doable for me to try right now? Pick just one and commit to using it in your very next writing session. That's it. That one small, simple step is how you begin to win this battle. Thanks so much for joining me. For more tips like these, grounded in actual research, make sure you subscribe. You can do this.